Hey, 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 happy Friday to all of you. And a little pet peeve, a boost to get you moving closer to what you want. And a little bit of my daily dose of body mind medicine from Access Your True Nature. And if you don't know me and you stumbled on this page, I'm Sarah Jane. And I'm really here to get you to see the gift that you are and to really live in integrity with your core desires and get what you want and get the results now and stop waiting. And I noticed, not that I'm an expert in astrology, but I do use spiritual astrology in my pathways to purpose mapping to really get people to remember who they actually came here to be. It's not what you're becoming, it's what you've always been. And I noticed today the sun begins its big yearly month-long tour in Aquarius, the sign of community and the collective. And I've been very busy playing in my collective inside of the Believe 7-day challenge that we've just come off, and noticing that this is just so interesting, the synchronicity of the inauguration of Trump today and a lot of hype and a lot of people that are not happy that he's now going to be the leader of America, and noticing that isn't it interesting? You know, this Aquarian archetype is that of the rule breaker. It's the whistleblower. You know, it's about fraud patrol and about actually looking at the lies that we've been trying to make true, actually, and looking at how we can break new ground, cross over the threshold of this time in change, and that we're all part of it. And Aquarius also, it's that the ruling planet is Uranus. If I lose connection, there's a beautiful big storm outside my window, and this really is, again, it's just like a wake-up call. You know, the thunder and the lightning are really putting on a beautiful symphony outside today and wetting the grass and everything. But this really is the time to remember that we are waking up. We're waking up to a whole new paradigm where there isn't a manual, and we know that the things that worked in the past aren't working anymore. And Aquarian in its nature is one of leading in your zone of excellence. In fact, it's even more than excellence. I think it's your zone of genius. And also to know that the leadership of Aquarian isn't top down. It's about aspiring others to rise up and become empowered by adding their own voice to this beautiful cacophony of other people's songs. And it's really what I stand for and what I want to contribute to in the world. Hi, Jocelyn. So, you know, one of the transits, one of the major transits of this energy right now, for any of you that know astrology, is that it's affecting all of us. And there's a lot of unsettled energy. There's a lot of restlessness that's going on with us now. And it's going to be there throughout the year, that there is this Uranus and this Jupiter energy in opposition of everything that we stand for, which is radical expansion. You know, we're not supposed to stay stagnant. We're not supposed to be still. And yet so many of the people that I speak to and the people that I work with in my practice, hi Margot, are wanting consistency. And I always remind them to really look at what does it mean to be consistent, because it's in our nature to want to know the predictable. And yet it's in our true nature to want expansion. You know, we're here to have this beautiful adventure called being a soul in a physical embodiment, and yet none of us are quite convinced that it can be a magical, expansive, beautiful adventure. And this is where this nature of Jupiter can really bless us with this capacity to take it all on, to say, you know what, even though I'm afraid, I'm going to do this anyway. And that really is this time that we're in, is looking at, how am I going to wake up? How am I going to wake up and take responsibility? In other words, move toward, respond to whatever comes my way, and bring out this beautiful potency that's in you already, and know that you have the capacity to create a world worth living into by just being you. And it reminded me too of how crazy this actually is, because we're not believing in our own capacity to lean into our gifts and our natural talents and gifts. And I got a I got an email yesterday, land in my email box, which is normally overflowing, from an estate agent that maybe came to our house 2 or 3 years ago, and did the normal, predictable sales pitch, so to speak, of, "Hi, it's so and so from whatever real estater, and I just wanted to know, is your house on market?" And it's so predictable that, are you wanting to sell your house? And I know every 3 months that I'll get the same phone call, and they're not changing the dialogue. There's no intimacy, there's no connection in it. So I got this predictable email, landed in my email box yesterday, from this woman, and she said, "Hi, Sarah Jane and Kevin, I just wanted to know, are you interested in selling your house?" So I know obviously they're looking for stock again, and I just thought, wow, here's a woman that may, and there's, we all want to do our best, and we're doing the best that we can, but looking at these unconscious commitments and these patterns and the blind spots of, first of all, my husband's name isn't Kevin. That is his father's name. And he has been passed for 5 years. His mother, my husband's mother and father, lived on the opposite corner to where I live for probably over 40 years. And her house was on the market for close to a year. And I know that this particular agency was one of them that had it on their books. And she sold the house a couple of months ago. And I was like, how insensitive, because there comes this defense pattern of going, you see, nobody really cares. It's all about the money. And in their efforts to actually get stock, and which is their focus, that they need stock to sell and to make a living for themselves, that they didn't pay attention to the tiny details that can make the difference between you getting the results that you want and getting the resources that you want, in the way that you're serving people and not. And this is one of my pet peeves with this sort of generic emails and the cold calling that's done. And I've often wondered about this, it's like, why are people not actually looking at their results? What you can't measure, you can't track what you don't measure. And if you're not tracking your results, and just look at your last year, if you're not looking at the results and seeing where there's a gap, where you fell short, and asking some really generative questions on, how can I expand on the things that worked and focus there, rather than not looking at the things that don't work. I see there's a lot in life transformational industry as well, of people that they're doing a cookie cutter method. They're following somebody else's system. They're regurgitating other people's words, and then they wonder why their business isn't giving them the results, because it's not meaningful. There is no connection. And for me, my currency is in connection. It's about touching people. It's about getting to know who they are. And I emailed this woman back, and I said, thank you for asking, but just wanted to know if you ever are interested in getting some results from the way that you are reaching out and not touching people. Let me know, because that is an area that I'm really, really good at, is showing people their gifts and showing them a way to heart sell, rather than hard sell or cold call or make silly little mistakes like that actually keep them stuck doing the same thing over and over again, and wondering why they're broke, and wondering why they haven't got clients, and wondering why nobody is knocking their door down. And it's so easy to change it, isn't it? What are you saying, Margot? I need to put my glasses on. Yeah, generalized patterns, because I think it's practical and time saving. Yeah, and at the end of the day, what is it costing you to actually not get really honest and really start to look at, how can I expand my agenda to show up in a way that actually gets results and creates a positive impact in the world? And I don't know, it's just one of those things. It's just like, why are people not looking at this? Why are call centers that companies hire, or debt collectors, or these generic things, why are they not actually training their staff to actually make a connection where people feel heard and people feel seen, rather than knowing that they're going to read from a script and they're just going to regurgitate the same old thing, and they're not listening to what the person on the other side that they actually want to get them to pay, to pay them, or they want to actually get them to invest with them. Why are they not listening to what people want? And this really is what I stand for, is looking at how just by changing things back into humanizing the way that automation and everything else has gone, that pisses people off, that by the time they actually do get to speak to somebody, they're not very receptive, are they? I don't know if you can relate to this, but this is something that really bothers me, is that where money comes to us through people. So if you are not building that know, like, and trust factor, how on earth do you think that people are going to pay you for what you have to offer? And there's so many people that have great services and are doing amazing things in the world, but they don't know how to create heart connections because they're following some system or some marketing person's script, or how to make 6K in 6 days. And they're not actually asking, what would that look like if I was truly present and if I was being me? And I see this happen all the time. People mean well, but they actually lose sight of why they got into the business that they're in the first place. And they're not sensitive to, there is a real live human being on the other side of the email or the telephone. And, I don't want to imply that all disease, and disease is just the opposite of being easy. But what if if the disease, the root of the problem is, like Margot was saying, that we've lost touch with our own humanity. And then, fear is a really good place to tap back into that, to remembering that you are human, that you have feelings and you have emotions and you want to be touched and you want those deep connections to get you out of your pain, to get you what you want in a way that doesn't have to be forceful and hard and insensitive. And I know it's more complicated than that. I know you know that too, but I do want to generalize here, because my work is based in epigenetics, that we have a certain amount of switches on our genome, and we're okay, and we're maintaining, and we might be coping and we might be struggling, but all these little epigenomes and these markers, they get switched on or they get switched off when we actually reach our sort of tipping point. And all we have to do to stop ourselves getting into full-blown chronic disease or putting ourselves in a situation which is harmful or is going to bankrupt us is to just to know that you have the power to take aligned action and get back on track to your inner pilot light, to your North Star, and look at what is the universe wanting to make out of me. And you can maybe relate. You know what you should be doing, and yet you keep doing what is so out of alignment because somebody's told you, or maybe you've invested a ton of money and it's like you've gone too far down to actually cut your losses, so to speak, that actually aren't time gains, and they're not time lost. They're all there to get you back into your true nature, to course correct. And when we start to delve into that sort of differential, it's that you don't have the habits, you don't have the training maybe to get done what you know you should do, and maybe fear is holding you back into that. And we don't have to, we don't have to know everything, but we need to know who we are. We need to know what we want. And we don't necessarily know how to implement the structure or the process for our own evolution. But the weird thing is that once you start to implement the structure based on the fact that you know who you are, then the habitual, the rituality of how you show up just becomes second nature to you. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think some of the toughest of habits are easy to kick when we have the container and the anchors to take small steps with great courage every day. You know, we have to be willing to risk everything. And I'm curious if you know what I'm talking about, you know, this sort of lack of integrity issue where, you know, even with Trump, it's like, what if it could turn out, what if he could turn out to be a phenomenal leader beyond what you could imagine, rather than already sort of buying into the self-fulfilled prophecy that it's not going to work out, and that it's a scary place to be. If we all get that integrity issue is universal, that it's built into who we are as human beings, then we can stop this beating ourselves up and this self-judgment and the flagellation, and just get on with being you, taking aligned action. And if you're carrying any kind of extra weight, or you are finding that you're struggling and you don't want to right now, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're kind of working too much and your body's breaking down, that would be a big clue from your body that it's saying no, that there's something you need to look at here. And you know that is what it takes, is taking one shift. I always say inch by inch is a cinch, yard by yard is hard. So stop trying to close the gap in one leap and just start to look at, how can I take one step? And what are the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions that I have allowed to run my life into this place where I'm exhausted and burnt out and overwhelmed? And just tap into the abundance. You create your own safety. It's always been within you. Your body knows how to keep you safe. So don't self-abandon yourself. You know, stay in the game of your gifted life. There's so many people that are like panicking and getting all anxious because we're almost through January already, and they feel like, oh my God, I don't have a plan in place and I don't know what I'm doing. And that's when you really lose integrity too with yourself. When you're kind of forcing things to happen, when sometimes it's a time to just pause and take a moment and lean in to look at, what is it that I'm truly afraid of here? And stop band-aiding. You know, you've got to go deep. You've got to go deep and look into the shadows. And you've got to look at, where am I not addressing this core wounding? Where am I not getting to the root cause of why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling? And then take small steps, daily habits that over time start to upgrade you. And this really was part of the joy of the 7-day belief challenges. We started to do small steps that were scary, and then look at the next one and look at where we landed. And you know, my clients, I'm really, really lucky. I have amazing clients that work with me, and their feedback is always the same, that the more that they allow themselves to have the time, the more space opens up for them, because time is illusion anyway. You know, and they report that on having a lot more clarity because they've taken the pause. And of course, you know, the typical unneeded things like extra weight start to drop, and they start to sleep better, and they start to eat better, and they start to just feel better and happier in their lives, because they're doing better planning, and they're living smarter because they're connected back into their hearts. And these are what I call bright lines, and it's not my term. I got that from a friend of mine who does this with an eating program, where the people in her program are getting phenomenal results. And it's really, really simple, in that if you have a bright line, in other words, if you know what your end goal is, then you can actually set yourself up to actually prepare and plan. Say for the day before, if you're planning your meals ahead of time, and you are preparing your meals, and you're doing it in a place where you're, you know, de-stressing from the day, and you can do the same thing with your business. What worked today, what didn't work? Look at your gains, celebrate your wins, and look at where you can amplify what worked, so that tomorrow is even better than today. And that is a bright line. If I know what my day is going to look like, if I know from the beginning of waking up to the time when I'm going to go to sleep, and I tell my parents that I've got gifted children, you know, abilities that have been defined as and diagnosed and labeled as disabilities like autism or ADHD. I find with autistic children, and this is actually where I got the download from, is that if you give them a whole day picture of what the day's going to look like, and it doesn't necessarily mean speaking it because they're just so connected to the energy. If you just kind of show them a flash, that'll take 30 seconds for them to download of what their day is going to look like. One of my clients told me their kids, that they had two autistic, hypersensitive, highly functioning kids, and their biggest suffering was that they could never get out the house on time, that it was always very traumatic in getting them ready and dressed and fed and in the car and off to school. And when they started giving these children bright lines of what the day was going to look like, their whole lives got easier. The kids got it, and they were in the car, they dressed themselves, and they were there, and they couldn't actually believe it. And that's how simple it can be when you actually start looking at bright lines and looking at where do I need to deepen into my focus and integrity of what the big picture focus is so that I can get the results that I want. And you know, members of my tribes, they're really starting to get excited because they're stopping these self-perpetuating cycles of stress by taking small steps with a very bright line, a very clear focus on, if I do this consistently for the next 45 days, because I'm big into nervous system rebooting, that's part of my work, is we have to take the nervous system out of hyperarousal and calm it down. Or as my mentor Monty Roberts says, when your adrenaline's up, your learning comes down. So setting out your bright lines, doing a brain dump, looking at what worked, writing in your gratitude journal, taking that first moments when you wake up in the morning to really say hi to your body, get back in your body, ground yourself, writing in your morning pages. These are the kind of rituals that I'm also guilty of sometimes letting slip by, because my head goes so far into the future that I hit the ground running, and then I wonder what happened to the day. I kind of had one of those days today. So this is as much for me as it is for you, and I hope it's helpful. But yeah, you know, what if you start to tap back into these ancient habits, the ancient wisdom of our ancestral way of being in flow and in sync and in harmony with the Earth's natural rhythms, with the planetary aspects, with where the moon is. As women, we're so tapped into the moon and our menstrual cycles and looking at the feeding cycle. You'll be amazed how easy your life begins to be and how much happier you are. And the greatest gift you can give to anybody is being happy. This is where I see the lives of partners and children actually starting to just expand and become something so much greater. I've been coaching people on the natural feeding cycle and the flow of life through the Chinese medicine feeding, the co-cycle, for over 15 years, because it's ancient wisdom and it's worked for centuries. So, you know, if it isn't broken, don't try and fix it. You know, don't try and change something that's working. And I've been coaching the habits of yogis longer than you know, I personally had integrity with my own habits. And I've been showing people how to reboot their nervous system and heal from trauma since I wept on the floor of a mental hospital, broken into a million tiny pieces, and chose to fuel that experience of breaking open to actually heal my own depression and anxiety and chronic disease, and really start to know that no one was going to come and save me, that I didn't need saving. I needed to start living into my gifts. And this is how it is with many of us, isn't it? We teach that what we most need to learn for ourselves. And when we step into integrity by noticing when we fail to step, to take that action, to move an inch, to just ask the generative questions, that's the gift of the human experience. So whether you're an artist, or whether you're selling houses, or whether you're teaching children, or coaching corporate executives to to heal in a natural way so that they don't burn out or have a heart attack on the golf course. When you put yourself on stage to learn from the crowd, that's where the magic is. And I know this for myself. When I stopped holding back, when I came from a space of not having all the answers and trusted what I did know and shared that, when I started to get real and raw and honest with my tribe, that's when the magic happened. That was bigger than me. It was bigger than the work. And it was just organic, and it was flexible, and it's so spacious because we each are. And that's what I'm here to remind you, is that you are your own medicine. Be your own medicine. Trust what you know. Trust what you don't know, and ask for support for the parts that you need assistance and guidance on. You don't have to do it all yourself. And when I let people know where I struggle, when I show up and I'm not all put together and I'm not looking like a Vogue cover, when I let people see that I am human and that I make mistakes, it connects me with my own humanity, but it also puts me in connection with the people that are willing to receive what I have to share. Just like that real estate agent that sent me that email. There was a lack of integrity in how she was showing up. There was no connection. And the result of all of that, when you actually connect, when you're real and you're raw and you're vulnerable, is that you will have humility, and you will remember that you are humankind before you are a human being. You are human kindness. And that authenticity is the habit of the yogis that's automated, like in the rituality of showing up and knowing that is where I have to own my stuff. That's where I have to be selfish, to looking at taking care of my own needs, and also going into the shadows to see what can be improved upon, because we all want to be better, and we don't grow if we're not willing to tune in and listen to that. And slowly, inch by inch, that's where the wisdom, the maturity comes from living into your aligned action, because you know who you are. And it's time, isn't it? It's time to take action, even if you don't feel ready. I never feel ready, but I go anyway. And when we allow our hearts to just break open, when we're able to be a mess of snot on your Kundalini yoga mat, that's where you find the message, and that's when we get on track. If we have more time and we have more space and we have more ease, and we're not carrying this weight of the world on our bodies, there is no inflammation. There is no fried brain. There is no brain fog or screwed up nervous system, because we are living in a space where we are leaning into healthy stress and more aligned action. And then I know that I'm doing my job really well when I can get people to choose that. That's when I know that this is what that I'm here to contribute. So I wanted to just say, it's okay if you're not out the gates. It's January. January is the time when we are still recalibrating. We're looking back on what worked for last year and also what didn't work. January is the between time, the luminal space. For me, the year only starts in February, which is why the Gifted Life Project starts in February. My group membership club starts in February, because this is the time where you're still looking at being present with your now. It's okay if you haven't started, if you're not clear yet. Give yourselves a break. Tread gently. It's good. It's a really, really good time to ground into your work, and look at, what do you truly want? What do you want to bring into physical manifestation this year? And get ready. Do the groundwork. Get support. Get your ducks in a row, so that when the time comes, you are ready to take action in integrity, in alignment with who you are and what's needed to happen in order for you to receive what you want. Okay, be available for that when that energy comes. You know, and maybe that's a beautiful mantra for you right now, to just say, I'm available for whatever comes. I'm available for everything. I'm available to have more clients. I'm available to have more ease and more time and more joy and more money. I'm available to have an adventure, even though I don't know what it looks like. And don't act, please don't act out of force. Don't act against yourself in that place of resisting, that you know that now is not the time. Take a breath, push pause, and please don't act from contraction. If you feel heavy, remember, what's heavy is a lie. What's light and expansive is true for you. And if you're not calm right now, if you're not trusting, just give yourself a space to tap into your powerful creator energies, and know that you will get the outcome. It'll never look like what you think it's going to look, and it never shows up how you think it's going to show up. But just trust, believe that you've got this, and believe that you're not alone. You have the universal support. You have your spirit guides. You have your team players. You have amazing mentors and coaches and tribe and community out there to support you. So be willing to get real. Be willing to look at where you're lying to yourself. Be willing to look at your tripwires and your blind spots, and let somebody touch you. Allow somebody in to support you in mastering your inner game. Because whatever is not resolved internally, you know, is going to reflect outside in the results, in your disease, in your struggle, in your coping mechanisms. And we want you to get bright lines. We want you to look at those two boundaries that I always talk about, that imagination and courage. Everything that you are is born out of that creative aspect of knowing that you have a beautiful, vivid imagination. It's part of how you create in the world. So don't use it against yourself. You know, fear is just imagination without love. Remember your humanity. Go gently on yourself. Connect with the parts that need you right now. Tell them that it's okay, that you've got this. And enjoy your weekend. I wish you a beautiful morning, afternoon, or night, wherever you are. And what if everything could turn out better than you could ever imagine possible? Okay, I want that for you. So have a great weekend. I love you. Keep being you. You're amazing. And remember, the world isn't waiting for someone like you. The world is waiting for you and what only you can give to the world. And you know what that is. You've got it. Okay? Slow down. Take a breath and give yourself time to prepare to till your soil. Okay? You've got it. Love you lots. Bye. Mwah.